Start out by saying, welcome to the 2021 Legislative Roundtable of the Morgantown Area Partnership. I'm Eldon Callan, General Counsel and Vice President of Government Affairs. Today, February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Last year, 2020, our furry little friend on Gobbler's Knob predicted an early spring. Today, Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow and is predicting 6 more weeks of winter. As spring arrived in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic brought challenges to our lives and livelihoods none of us ever expected. We just didn't know what 2020 would bring, and here in 2021, we're looking forward with hope. Today, I want to thank our members and community who joined us, because only together can we work and see how our region and state can better ourselves. And we look to our legislators to help us in that effort. And I want to thank our legislators for taking their time to listen and help explain how sometimes complex issues are only the way, or sometimes those complex issues to us are a way to better ourselves. If anyone has any questions for our legislators, please type those in the chat box. We will have time to pose those questions to our legislators. The partnership welcomes all our attendees to use that chat box for our moderators. The partnership is a public-private alliance for the betterment of the economic, business, and community development in Montague County and the greater Morgantown area. It is comprised of the Chamber of Commerce, Montague County Development Authority, Morgantown Area Economic Partnership, and the Neighborhoods Revitalization Cooperation, also known as Sunnyside Up. The partnership takes a holistic approach to business, economic, and community development and focuses on creating strategic solutions for our growing community. The Morgantown area can only prosper if our region, from Marion, Wetzel, Marshall, Preston, Taylor, the entire 13-county region of our north central West Virginia thrives. As an organization combined of both public and private entities, we do focus strongly on many policies and issues that are important to our members. We have approximately 500 business members in the community, and we focus on those issues at the state, local, and federal levels that make a difference not only to our membership, but to our entire region. This session will be recorded, and our recording will be made available to all participants and posted to the morgantownpartnership.com and our social media challenges. I would like to introduce our moderators for today, the co-chairs of our Governmental Affairs Committee and the chair of our 2021 Legislative Priorities Subcommittee. Elizabeth Durr, affectionately known as Libby, is the Regional External Affairs Consultant with First Energy, Mon Power, for whom she has worked 26 years. She is a liaison between the electric utility and towns in 9 northern counties, including state legislatures, county governments, and nonprofit organizations. We also have Dan Miller. He is a senior scientist with Patel and Associates, a leading environmental engineering firm with locations in Charleston and Morgantown, West Virginia, and Winchester, Virginia. Charlie Russell is an associate at Steptoe and Johnson, PLLC, where he focuses his practice on banking, real estate, and financial services. He is a 2007 graduate of Morgantown High School, a 2011 graduate from WVU, and has a BS in biochemistry, and a 2017 graduate from WVU College of Law. Thank you both for your efforts and dedication and time to the partnership for the entire community. I will now turn it over to the three of them to start our panelist discussion with all of our legislators.
Yeah, I think they're all here. And I guess what we can do is maybe we'll have the senators first start, giving roughly a 1-minute background on who they are, where they came from, and then we'll get into the questions. Senator Mike Caputo, are you ready? Unmute yourself. Yeah,
I am. I see my senior senator, Delegate Beach, or Senator Beach is there. So if he don't mind, I will go first. That's fine, whatever.
Right ahead.
Okay. Well, my name is Mike Caputo, and I served in the House of Delegates with my friends that I see there, Barbara, John, David, Danielle, Evan, for 24 years. As you guys know, the senator from the 13th, the senior senator, decided not to run again, and I decided to take on that challenge. I met with a lot of folks in Morgantown, a lot of business folks throughout the campaign as much as I could during these COVID times, and I want to continue that relationship with everyone there. I've worked with Libby for a long time, and her and Sammy Gray over the years I've known many, many years. I just try to be open and honest with everyone, and my goal was always to find common ground and avoid knockdown, drag out fights. I just truly believe that if both sides want to reach a consensus, they will, but the key to that is both sides have to want to. I have a background in labor. I'm not ashamed of that. I never would ever hide that. I worked for the United Mine Workers for 22 years. I retired as an international vice president, but also understand the needs of business and the needs of the community. So Morgantown is new turf to me. I will count on folks like Senator Beach and the delegates from that area to help me along. I did represent Mon County, a little piece of it, for 10 years. There was a redistricting where I had the Smithtown area and the Arnottsville, Everettsville, Hagens area for a 10-year period of my House race, but never the city of Morgantown. I think it's robust. I think it's the economic driver for the entire state of West Virginia. And sometimes I don't know that that's recognized in Charleston. So I think we got a great team, a good bipartisan team that we can work together. And I hope that we caucus often and talk about the needs of Morgantown and, quite frankly, North Central West Virginia. I think North Central, when it thrives, we all thrive. So
that's right.
Thank you for
very good. Thanks for joining us. And Senator Bob Beach, I'm glad you're with us as well.
Well, good morning to all of you. A special good morning to my colleagues here in the House and the Senate. Looking forward to getting back down to Charleston and jumping in feet first into whatever may be before us. As Mike said, I too am a former member of the House of Delegates, served 10 years there, and now in my 10th year in the West Virginia State Senate. And during my time there, I've served as former chairman of transportation. And for my last 20 years, I've always served on education, which is something I believe that's terribly important for North Central West Virginia State as a whole, because education in many communities is the economic driver there. And there's numbers that support that. So we always have to take a careful look at what we're doing with education. Judiciary has been my home also for the past 10 years. And there's always some unique challenges within that community, regardless of who's chairing the committee. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. Mike and I, we caucus on a regular basis with the minority members in the House or within the Senate. And we do that every what is it, in the morning, I believe, or in the afternoon, excuse me. And working out what we want to really pay attention to in the months ahead of us. But yeah, there are challenges, as Eldon led in with, we were facing COVID as we came out of session, and we're facing COVID again as we go in. I will commend each and every member that's sitting here who voted on the budget bill. We did in fact have the common sense, and that was led by Senator Stallings, to put some money in there for COVID. I believe it was only $100,000, but that was more than what some states were doing. And at least we as a legislative body collectively recognized that need at that time. So I think if we continue to work together as we did in that circumstance, West Virginia will start moving in the right direction. But I'm excited to hear from each one of you. If you have questions there, I'm going to look in the chat room, see if you have something there. But it's a pleasure to be here, and always enjoy the conversations.
Good. Can we move over to the delegates? I guess so. Danielle, before you have to start driving, maybe we'll let you go just in case your son comes back and you got to start driving back to Morgantown. So give us a 1-minute brief background on yourself and we'll get to the rest.
Thank you. Thank you, Morgantown Area Partnership, for having this roundtable of all my colleagues. I am Delegate Danielle Walker, representing District 51, Monongalia County. I've been in West Virginia for 11 years now. This is my second chance home. This is my second term in the legislature, but I still feel that I'm still a freshman amongst all these collective minds. I'm ready to go to work and put in work to make sure that we are being inclusive to each and every West Virginian, to each and every visitor that comes to our mountain state. The time is right now that safety is an issue. We're dealing with an epidemic inside of a pandemic that is affecting our economics across the board. So education, I'm on the education committee this year, which is a new committee. And so I am very excited to learn upfront and personal with education. And I see that we do have some Q&As in the chat, so I can't wait till we get there. And I can probably stay on for another 15 minutes.
Okay, well, thank you. Barbara, are you still with us? Unmute. Yep. You're still muted, Barbara. She's talking. All right.
Don't care if she's muted. She will talk and talk and talk. There you go.
There she is. Okay.
Well, for some reason, that little thing with the maximize and minimize was right by the mute button. But anyway, I am still here and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting us today. My name is Barbara Evans Fleischauer. This will be my 25th year in the House. I'm very happy that I was sent back. I have worked on a number of committees, and I am most interested in hearing what your members are interested in. I have some ideas of things that I want to do, but I would like to share them if we have a chance to do that. But I want to pass the baton to one of my other delegates. I'm in the 51st district and we have 5 delegates. And then I think we also have Dave Pethel here, who has a couple of precincts in the western end of the county and represents all of Wetzel, but that's sort of the layout for the House of Delegates.
Good, good. And speaking of that, I think Evan Hansen's here. He's one of the 5 that you had mentioned. So Evan, you can give us a little background, and I know you're very concerned about the environment and sustainability, and I support your efforts down in the legislature. Go ahead, Evan.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for organizing this. If I haven't met you yet, I'm a small business owner here in the Morgantown area, and I'm an environmental scientist. So I do work related to water and energy science and policy as my day job. And I'm interested in a lot of those issues, among others, at the legislature. I'm returning for my 3rd year, so it's the beginning of my 2nd term. And this year, I am the minority chair of the Natural Resources Committee. So that committee deals with issues related to hunting and fishing and state parks and things like that. So feel free to contact me if you have any issues or bill suggestions related to those issues. I'm also on the Technology and Infrastructure Committee, which deals with road issues, road maintenance. So I know that that's a big concern of all of ours. And I also serve on the Energy Committee, which deals with a lot of important legislation, not just related to fossil energy, but related to new types of energy and new types of jobs that we could attract to West Virginia. I'll talk about specific bills during the Q&A during those opportunities. But I would just say that one thing I'm concerned about this session has to do with how open it's going to be. There are new provisions in place related to COVID, understandably, but it appears that the public's not going to have much access. And I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about legislators having access to experts who could testify in committees. And I'm concerned, at least on the House side, that there's no requirement to hold any public hearings on any bill, even if it's requested. So these are things that concern me and that I hope other people might speak up about as well.
Well, very good. That is one of the items of discussion for today and it may not yet be determined how exactly the legislature is going to allow this access, but that is a topic for discussion in the next hour or so while we're here. So thank you, Evan. Let's see, I've got Joe Statler. You're still with us?
I am. Good morning.
Good.
Hope you can hear me. I'm not the technology expert. The rest of them are here. I can tell you that. I am Joe Statler. I'm serving from the 51st. I've served 2 terms before, and the electorate gave me a two-year break. So I'm back, and I'm happy to be back representing the area. I serve on finance, education, technology and infrastructure, and also I'm chair of the fire and EMS. That's something that I really look forward to trying to get some things accomplished there more. So this year, along with everything else, I think it's going to be a tough year for the budget. I think that we've got some money down there. I hope the other delegates and senators agrees that we need to get some insight in how that's being spent. We have a lot of needs out there, small businesses and even people that need some help with daycare and everything else, you name it. And there's a need out there, and we've got this money setting, and we need to get this in the hands of people that can utilize it and keep their businesses going. It would be a horrible shame if we allow businesses to fail when we do have some money to help them get through this pandemic. So saying that, look forward to working with everyone and interested in hearing the questions.
Good, thank you. Next on the screen, I see Delegate Dave Patel. Unmute, good.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Dave Patel. I represent the 5th Delegate District, which is all of Wetzel and 1 precinct in the western part of Monongalia from the Mon-Wetzel line out to Miracle Run. But it's good to be on here with all of my colleagues from both the House and the Senate. I'm very concerned about COVID that's been going on. Hopefully we may be able to do some things that can help with that. I'm real concerned about our public health departments, which have been underfunded for years, and that really has come home to haunt us during this pandemic. I think they're doing a great job, doing the best job that they can. Naturally, job development, keeping the jobs we have, and developing a climate for new jobs are very important. I'm really concerned about what happened at Milan with 1,500 jobs. And let me be right up front. I have a son that's worked there for 14 years, and it's really been devastating to us. I'm also concerned about the mining industry. I'm not sure what's going on with Blacksville too, but many of the constituents that I have in both Mon and Wetzel work at Blacksville too. So voters have really been good to me. This will be my 29th year in the House of Delegates. I've been elected 15 times. So I'm very pleased with that. And in Wetzel, we have a lot of oil and gas drilling, which has been really good to us over the years. That has been cut back some during the pandemic and everything. So I'm interested to hear what everyone has to say, and want to thank you again for the opportunity to be on here today.
Thank you, Dave. John Williams, I see you're patiently waiting. Can you give us a 1-minute brief background on yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Daniel. My name is John Williams. I have served in the House of Delegates. This will be my 3rd term in the House, and it's been a pleasure to do so. And it's always a pleasure to come here annually and have this conversation with you all. Small businesses are vitally important to our economy in North Central West Virginia, and I have a background in small businesses. I grew up around small businesses. I'm a former small business owner, and I work with small business owners in my practice as a financial advisor. So I'd like to think that I'm aware of the challenges that you all face, and I try to help in any way that I can in the legislature. Issues that are important to me are the roads. I'm sure we'll touch on those later. I've also worked on alcohol modernization laws to try to attract more young people to this state. And then I think looking at this legislative session, it's an interesting prospect because the management of this pandemic with the state's response has largely been up to one person in their office for the pandemic's entirety. So I think it's going to be interesting to have the legislature in session to be able to legislate some things on the second half of this pandemic that we can give our input legislatively, so where it's not just the governor that allocates dollars, et cetera. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Very good. Is Senator Maroney with us today? I don't see him on the screen. That doesn't necessarily mean he's not with us. But if not, did I miss any one of the delegates or senators?
Senator Seipold sent a message that he's broadband will not connect. He's I don't know whether it's a storm or what, but he sent some items that I can discuss later on.
Okay, and you know that
I'm still checking on Senator Maroney.
I think that is one of the issues. You know, he's having trouble with broadband connection, and that is one of the issues we need probably to discuss sometime today, because it's now, I think, worked its way into infrastructure. It's critical for education, health, business. All of those things will be greatly improved if we can improve our broadband. But we'll get into that.
And also, this might be the time Senator Charlie Clements. He has never missed one of these events over here since he's been a senator. He has attended every one of them regularly. He has eye surgery this morning and sent his regards and his regrets. He hated to miss it, but he couldn't change his surgery, and really wanted to pass on that he hated missing it this morning. Delegate Summers also passed on that she couldn't make it. She had a meeting with staff at the governor's office this morning. So both of them passed on their regards also.
So we did cover everyone that's at least with us today on the Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Well, I think we were gonna move into the first question, and rather than let everyone answer, what we had determined was we'd like to have one person from the House and then one person from the Senate respond to the unprecedented challenges that the legislature has and will need to operate with a reduced level of interaction with the public. And we'd like to, at least at this time, if they could explain how the legislature will operate with regards to the public during this unusual circumstance during this next session. So if someone from one of the senators could chime in.
Tell you what, I'll start off with it, and Mike can probably back me up or correct me as we go along here. On the Senate side, I cannot speak for the House side. The Senate side, we have been in discussions with leadership on our side in regards to some of the things that we would like to see in play. Obviously, in the Senate chamber, we would like to see masks worn at all times. That's still kind of, at this point, up in the air. We do more safety measures in the committee. We would like to be able to Zoom in, so to speak, into meetings from our office if need be. So those conversations continue. But on the Senate side, if you have a desire to meet with your legislator, you must contact the legislator and schedule an appointment. And then his office or her office will send your name downstairs to security. Your name will be added to the list, and you will not be permitted in the building unless you are on the list. And as right now, as of this moment, you're only permitted in the building long enough to deal with whatever you're there for, whatever the meeting may be, or the individual you're meeting with. And then you must leave. There's no longer hanging around the hallways and going down the hallway and talking to another legislator to lobby for an event. You have to be very specific in why you're there. And we're going to be specific on how long you can be there. But it's all, everyone needs to keep in mind that not everyone in that building has had a COVID vaccine. There's members on our floor that have never had it. So we're trying to protect you as well, not just you, keeping our distance from you. We want you to be safe when you visit the Capitol. And again, each and every one of us have that open door policy, and we'll be using Zoom meetings more often. And if folks want to schedule a Zoom meeting with us moving forward, we can do that on an individual basis or in a more of a community format like you have here. But yeah, we're taking the precautions, and it's not like we're excluding anyone from participating. We still have broadcast everything live, and you can reach in just by going online and to the legislature, Senate side or House side. And again, you have the opportunity to schedule your meetings if need be. So yeah, I just want to make folks clear that we've not shut anyone away. They're just some rules that we all have to play by.
Very good. Thank you, Senator Beach. A suggestion was made that we ask Danielle to represent the representatives. Danielle, you want to give us a...
Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that. After this, I'll hop off. I agree with Senator Beach on a lot of what he said, but we work for each and every one of you. You have our emails. Some of you have our phone numbers in the office and even our cell phone numbers. I know we have discussed about doing a weekly update as we did with the Facebook Lives during the, during this pandemic. I know I am on the House Education Committee, so that Democrat caucus will also be doing a weekly live update for 5 or 10 minutes. I do live updates every morning, every evening before I get to my office, and I'm dealing with some safety issues as always. So that will be a little bit different, where I probably will only do those live updates once a day instead of twice a day. But we also, each and every elected official here, we're also very engaged in West Virginia public broadcasting. The Dominion Post is there in Charleston. And so we will make sure that you have the communication to us. I am scheduling meetings now with folks through Zoom, through calls. And so we are all available to you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Danielle. If there was any urgent addition to that, someone can chime in now. Otherwise, we'll move over to Charlie and let Charlie explain a little bit about the 2021 legislative priorities that the partnership has focused on after talking with some of the membership.
Daniel, I'd like to just add to that. One thing that I'm concerned about, and our caucus seems to be concerned about, is the lockdown of the Capitol, and the public won't have the accessibility they normally have, but special interests, we believe, will be whining and dining, for lack of a better term, members of both bodies. I'm hearing that some special interests are going to set up hospitality suites a couple days a week and to gain access to legislators where, you know, common folk won't be able to do that now. So I'm deeply concerned about that. And our caucus has been discussing that, quite frankly. You know, I think that there should be a rule that, at least for this session, that lobbyists can't host those kind of events, and lobbyists can't wine and dine legislators, because it's just an unfair, unlevel playing field, in my opinion. And you know, so that's just my thoughts. The lockdown of the Capitol, I know there's a lot of safety concerns, but you know, it's still the people's house, and I think we got to figure out a way that everybody has equal access. And I apologize, but I wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
No, that's good. That's a very valuable comment, and I think you're not the only person concerned about equal access. I think everyone is wondering, how can that be delegated, or how can we try to create that equality and everyone having that access to the legislatures, not just the ones with money. So very good point. Charlie, you want to give us your time in discussing some of the priorities?
Sure. So just a background on how these priorities, which you all have been provided previously, the partnerships, legislative agenda and priorities. It just came about over the summer, the work of the subcommittee, which consisted of Melissa Barub, Bob Music, Libby Durr, and myself. We met several times. We reviewed past surveys that were sent out by the partnership to its members on what issues were most important to the membership. We looked at those results, looked through news articles, and just generally brainstormed what we think is, or the big issues coming up for this session. So some of the priorities are continuations of stuff that's always there: roads, infrastructure. Some are new, relating to COVID-19 relief and support for businesses. I won't get into all the priorities as you have them. I will say that I don't think there's any particular priority to the priorities. You know, there's just sort of a general list of what we support. Eldon Callan and the rest of the Government Affairs Committee also gave their input, and as we developed these priorities. The Transportation Committee also helped out and provided 3 transportation-related bills, as well as Visit Mountaineer Country, CBB, gave some bills relating to hospitality and tourism, of some items that they would like to see pass this upcoming session. So that's how the priorities came about. And I think we're ready to get into questions. If Dan or Libby, if I want to throw it back to you all to kick off the questions.
Yes, this is Libby. And there are just so many things that we can discuss, and there's so many issues that have been brought up. And with every issue, there are just so many directions you can go. And so it's always challenging to come up with questions that will really help you understand our community and what we need. But you're all from here. Most of you are from here or the immediate area. So you do have a very good understanding. So one issue, it's an ongoing issue with the COVID-19 pandemic. And obviously West Virginia is making national news. They're doing great at helping combat this. And you know, there's all kinds of discussion, lasting effects on businesses and economy, things like that. We've observed things here, businesses, schools, and industries being interrupted by COVID-19, but there's an opportunity that could come from that, possibly if we could just expand the broadband in this area. And, you know, Morgantown is a great place to live. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to raise a family. And we want people to be able to come here and do those things. And more businesses are allowing their employees to, they've changed their work from home policies, and they're allowing their employees to work from home. So big city people have been fleeing to more rural areas. And we know this would be a great place for people to come to. Everything's here. We have the university. We have all kinds of tourism things that they could do. It's attractive, but the one thing that we are a little bit lacking in is broadband in this area. which would make it not as attractive as it could be. So I want to know what you would do to expand broadband here and in the area. And then specifically, we know that would grow and improve our economy, but what would you do to help that? Thank you. Anybody?
I could take a crack at that.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree, and I think probably all of us here agree how big of an issue that is, and that what we've been doing in the past hasn't really served a lot of West Virginians, including a lot of people in Mon County. We did pass some legislation in the last couple of years that should help some parts of the state. In particular, there was a bill that allows the two major electric utilities, so you probably know about this, to develop some broadband infrastructure and make that available. And I believe both utilities are moving forward with that in some counties, but not Monongalia County. There will be a broadband bill running through the Technology and Infrastructure Committee this session that will address some broadband issues around the edges. I'm not sure it's going to make the fundamental change that we need. One of the issues is that we've been relying on federal grants and federal funding that hasn't been targeted in the way that I think is most effective. And the most recent example of that is that auction, the reverse auction that the FCC had a month or two ago, where companies basically bid as low as they were comfortable bidding in order to provide service to underserved and unserved areas. And one of the issues is that Frontier secured a lot of those winning bids, including some in our county. And Frontier has faced issues with their solvency and misuse of government funds in the past. I think Delegate Statler and I, along with other members of the Technology and Infrastructure Committee, we signed on to a letter that is asking the FCC to look real hard at whether Frontier is actually going to be able to follow through on their commitment through that auction. And if they're found not to be able to follow through, then to go to the next highest bidder. We think that that might be a better solution. In addition to all that, we have a portion of state code that specifically allows the creation of cooperatives, of broadband cooperatives. And that was put into state code several years ago. And it has not been used to the extent that it should be, in my opinion. I think that broadband cooperatives, especially those that are created by local units of government, like a county or a city, they've been proven to work in other parts of the country, but they haven't been used here. So I would like to see Monongalia County take the lead in that. And we have some experts that can work with the county to lead the way in the state of West Virginia to create a broadband cooperative that'll help us serve the unserved areas of the state and improve service to the rest of the parts of the state.
Thank you, Delegate. Does anyone have anything that they can add to that?
I'll just follow up, if I might, Libby. You know, Evan gave a great detailed report of the technical side of that. I just want to give a little bit of, you know, my gut instincts that I've learned over my 2 decades there. The legislature can do anything if they have the political will to do it. I believe the pandemic has taught us how desperate we are for good broadband in the state of West Virginia. School kids should not have to go to a McDonald's parking lot to do their homework. We all agree on that. I have a son-in-law who's working a DC job right in a spare bedroom in Fairmont, West Virginia. So it can be done. And I think that as many things as we may bicker over when we step up to partisan lines, this is one issue that I believe everybody will be on board with. If there's one nonpartisan issue that comes along every now and then, nothing is as strong as this one. I've not talked to a senator or delegate from either party who does not want to make this a priority. I think we need to use the stimulus money, and we need to use it widely. We need to partner with who we can partner with. I mean, I don't know all the mechanics of all of that, but I know there's a lot of smart people out there that can figure out a way to make this work for West Virginia, bring that plan to us. And if it makes sense, I believe it will have tremendous broad nonpartisan support, if not unanimous support. We all want to do this. We know that if we're ever going to move West Virginia forward, we can fight over a lot of things, but we all know that if we want to move West Virginia forward, we got to have good, dependable, high-speed internet across this state. So, you know, that's the layman's terms of fighting for broadband, and I think we're all in agreement. We just got to do it. I am concerned that, and no disrespect to our governor, he's done a good job, but I just don't think one person should have control of all of that money. You know, the House, when I was still a member, we had enough signatures to call ourselves in. The Senate could not achieve the signatures needed. But, you know, we're going to be in town now. I think there's going to be some discussions and hopefully some good compromise to move us forward. And I think we're also going to be talking about, you know, executive powers and how long they should last. And, you know, in 8th grade civics, you know, we were taught the power of the purse is in the legislative branch. So it doesn't seem to be that way. That's a lot of money. But, you know, back to the original point, broadband is a must. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We can't dance around that issue. We see we need it, we know we need it, and we just got to make it happen. Thank you.
Do you recall what the governor, I recall the governor set aside some money specifically for broadband last year. Do you remember the amount?
I do not. I don't know if one of the finance committee members may know the answer to that or not. I do not know that.
They're talking about $50 million a year for a few years.
Okay. Okay. Well, you think that's enough?
It's a start, but no, it's not enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Debbie, if I may also add in that
yes,
that this issue is also being worked on at the county level through the county commission with a committee that's put together, and I've been serving on it some. And I'm really hopeful that committee is starting to put out a proposal to look for a bid to work on some of the broadband issues within the county. And why I think that's important, because I have spoke to the chairman of the committee. And, you know, anytime that a local county is willing to put some of their own money into the game, then certainly we need to find some additional money from the state level in order to support that. And that's my opinion. Anyhow, so I am happy to see that the county commission is taking a lead on this and working with others to try and move it forward in the county at a faster speed.
Well, let me just piggyback on a few things right there. And Joe kind of hinted at it. I think we have to focus on the fact that we're just not getting broadband for the sake of broadband, that whatever we lure to the state is quality broadband, and that folks can communicate and we have access to it on a regular basis, and we don't have downtimes and things along that line. But yeah, it's, you know, we're no longer an optional infrastructure, it's a necessity. And I think we all need to focus on that.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be minimum speeds, because as you said, broadband comes in a variety of quality and levels and speeds. And hopefully we'll say, you know, I'm not familiar enough to know whether, you know, 20 megabytes a second is high or low, but, you know, something like that probably needs to be determined as we do this, you know, request for proposals to see what can be done.
All right.
Because
well, thank you. Go ahead.
You want to do you have another question? I've got a question as well, but if you want to do another one, Libby.
I do have another question. It's really not about broadband. This is something that our transportation committee has a great interest in. And, you know, we had the 2020 formula bill. And really what that does is it develops a formula for allocating road funds that are distributed among the districts that really benefit the counties, give them more of an even playing field. So, you know, some of the things that we're hoping that could be in this bill would be the population of each county, you know, the total lane miles in the county and the current condition of those miles, the vehicle traffic or the vehicle miles in that county, the heavy truck traffic. We have a lot of heavy truck traffic, industrial vehicles that drive through our town and through our area. We have a lot of bridges in our area. Some are newer, but many are very old. And what we would like to do is just see the formula that would ensure that all counties have stable funding for all of these districts. And I was wondering if this is something that you would support. I know that it passed before and it was vetoed, but it's something that we feel is important. And are you likely to pass this again? Will this be a bill that you would entertain?
Well, I'll start on this one that we have been working on. And when I say we, I mean Delegate Williams and I have been working on this throughout since the election and probably before. And he was the lead sponsor that got it to pass to be vetoed. This bill goes back to a history of Delegate Kerchaba when we done the study in 2015, I believe it was, the audit that found that there should have been a formula bill in place, but they say they're using it. But I will tell you that if they're using it incorrectly, because a lot of this is in a formula bill that's already in place. And so we are very much are going to enter this bill again. We are going to run in some stiff winds since it passed real easily in the House and the Senate and got vetoed. I will tell you that the DOH is reluctant to get this bill on the books along with the governor, and they've done their homework. They went out to the counties around the state that will be losing money. And of course, everybody believes in this state that Montague County has got the golden spoon in their mouth and shouldn't, I got to think of words here, the one I'm going to use wouldn't be the proper one to use, but thinks that we shouldn't be complaining about anything, just accept what we get. So there is where the issue is going to be. We got to be able to get that bill, even though it's written, we got to be able to get that bill to move forward and get leadership to put it into position to move it. So we're working that angle of it. We're looking at doing some things to the bill that will address the concerns that other delegates has. And that's what you do all the time. You see where your problems are and you try to address those concerns and get it to move forward. At the same time, I've been trying to get a meeting with Commissioner White, and I would just like to sit down and meet with him and to, again, address the issues of Montague County alone, where we're at in the funding process. And Delegate Hansen, I give him credit. He's the one that done the work to look at the audit and look how much we're losing out in Montague County. And so I would like to get that group back together again and go back after them and try to see if you're using the formula bill, then put that formula bill out there where we can see it. So we can see what you're doing, so we can make recommendations also to how to make that bill that or that process that you're using work better, because it's certainly not working, and we know that. So I would open that up for John, because I know he and I has talked a lot and he has a lot more ideas on this also.
Okay, thank you. And John, do you think that, and this is a question from Charlie Russell, will the formula bill, the road formula bill, be an early initiative so that it can override a potential veto?
Yeah, Charlie, that's a really good question. And that was the plan last session. And then the bill started moving. I think it got out of GovOrg. And then the DOH, seeing that it was moving once again, they sort of started their campaign with other legislators. And so it hit a roadblock legislatively. And so whereas we used to just have the governor to contend with, it seems now that there are members of the House and perhaps the Senate who have heartburn over this bill. And so it's sort of a two-pronged effort at this point in terms of building consensus and support for it. It's a difficult issue. Joe and I were on the radio last week talking about it, and we just have to work with other members from around the state to demonstrate to them that they have their own issues in their county that they might want to see work on, and we need to be helpful to them so that hopefully they'll be helpful to us when it comes time to vote in the affirmative on our formula bill.
Well, let me add just a little comment to that. I think one of the hurdles you have to overcome with the governor is the fact that he believes more flexibility needs to be built into it. As we were receiving word in our caucus, one of the main reasons was it didn't have the flexibility he believed it should have had. One of the things we always have to take in consideration, in fact, is it's on my list, it's number one, is weather and how it affects our roadways with the freezing and thaw cycles. And let's face it, some counties are hit more harshly with freeze and thaw cycles than Montague County or folks on the Ohio River. So there's a lot of things that we have to build into it. But I think, again, if you just address the issue of flexibility with the governor, I think you'd probably put his signature on it.
That's good. That's very good to hear. So does anyone have?
And we will. Well,
yes.
I would say, Libby, to Senator Beach, that we have reached out. I know the governor's a little busy right now. We've also reached out to see what they would like to see added into it if we do get it to moving forward. So
wonderful. All right. Well, thank you all. I appreciate that. And I believe
Libby.
Yes.
And Dave, were you going to say something also?
Yeah, go ahead, Barbara, and then I'll follow you.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the pay for the DOH employees. That's something that we have talked about for years as being part of the problem. We have city drivers that make more money than our DOH workers. We have Board of Education bus drivers that make more money and then they can have a job in the middle of the day. We have a gas industry that's kind of slow right now, but they were also pulling people away. You get what you pay for. And we have a bill that we've introduced for a couple of years that would have an increase in pay that we, our former county superintendent or regional engineer helped us figure out this pay raise bill that would gradually increase the pay. It was kind of based on a bill that we did for correction employees. And I think that that's a critical issue. We have, actually Dave, maybe he could talk about this. I spoke with his cousin who is a superintendent for the DOH and we have COVID issues right now. I have a friend who's working 12-hour shifts from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We need those people to want to go to work because we are so dependent on them. All of our businesses, all of our jobs, all of us need to get to the grocery store and they have been understaffed for years. We've all read about the vacancies. Well, like I said, you get what you pay for. And I think those employees that are there are dedicated. And I think we would get more dedicated employees if we gave them a decent salary.
Dave, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, first I wanted to address the formula bill, that I'm willing to really take a good look at that bill. Keep in mind, I also represent all of Wetzel County. It's a small rural county. Their average daily traffic counts are not real high. Wetzel is in District 6 and Monongalia is in District 4 within the highway structure. And I would say, I think there's only possibly one district. I think there's 10 districts that makes up the transportation of the Division of Highways. I think there's only like one district that gets less funding than District 6, and District 6 is from Hancock all the way to Tyler. So, I'm willing to really take a good look at this, but I certainly wouldn't want to do anything that's going to hurt the funding that Wetzel County receives. And I agree with Delegate Fletcher on the pay increase proposal for Division of Highways workers. It's very important. And even in a county like Wetzel, as I mentioned, a lot of oil and gas drilling. We have a difficult time, getting workers. So I think that's real important, and I'm willing to take a really good look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree also, we do need to appoint qualified people or get qualified candidates so that we can have an adequate workforce out there to maintain our roads. I mean, we're the citizens of West Virginia. We want good roads out there. So does anybody else have any comments on that specific subject? If not, I will turn it over to either Dan or Charlie. I'm sure they have questions.
I have one, and it kind of deals with the last legislative session. I believe it was Senate Bill 583 was passed, and it was a small step that is bringing West Virginia out of the I guess into the area where we have alternative energy sources, and all of our surrounding states are well ahead of us in promoting these alternative sources. And I think both of the two energy companies, First Energy and Appalachian Power, have indicated that they're recognizing the need for these alternative energy sources, because in order for manufacturers to come to West Virginia, they generally will ask, can we buy energy from you that is sustainable and renewable? And unfortunately, West Virginia doesn't have that ability to say, yes, you can, but we're making steps in that direction. So are there any efforts to introduce bills that will continue to try to bring West Virginia up to the level of all of our surrounding states in the country, that would generate jobs and create the alternative energy sources that are renewable, and allow manufacturers to get a yes on that box that they can have renewable energy as part of their power?
I could take a first crack at that. We actually passed 2 solar bills last session, and both of them are bearing fruit already in terms of jobs and investments into the state. Senate Bill 583 that you mentioned was the utility solar bill. And like you said, both utilities are on that path now. Appalachian Power put out a request for proposals to solar developers for the first 50 megawatt project. And they have received those proposals, and hopefully we'll have an announcement soon about their first utility scale solar project. And then First Energy publicly released a plan a couple months ago, their long-term plan to reduce their carbon emissions, and they committed to starting along that path to develop the first large solar array in West Virginia this year. So both utilities are moving forward, and those are going to be multi-million-dollar investments, probably $50 to $100 million investments with a lot of West Virginia jobs. The other bill we passed got a lot less attention, but it fixed a punitive tax that was in state code, and it's opened up the door for non-utility solar investments. And we've already seen 2 of those projects announced. There's a 90 megawatt solar array being built in Beckley. They got the public support from the labor unions and the local chamber of commerce, and they just negotiated a pilot agreement with the Raleigh County Commission. And that's a $90 million investment with tens of millions of dollars of benefits to West Virginia and hundreds of jobs. Then there's a similar size project that is moving through the process in Berkeley County. It's on a brownfield site. And those are the types of sites that we want these projects to be built on, because we're putting degraded land back into use. So I'm expecting to see hundreds of megawatts of solar being built in West Virginia over the next few years. And that's going to bring hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs to the state. But there's more that we need to do, because we're leaving other jobs on the table. And I've got a package of bills for this session, the new energy jobs package. And one of them is focused on small scale solar, rooftop solar. And it would legalize power purchase agreements, or PPAs. And this is simply a financing mechanism that allows the free market to play its course as it does in most states across the country. It basically allows a company to come in and finance and build a solar array on your rooftop at no cost to you. And you can start saving money on your electricity next month. In other states where these have been legalized, they've been used mostly by K through 12 schools and universities, senior centers, nonprofits, small businesses. That's who would benefit from these power purchase agreements. But in addition to saving money for all those types of entities, just immediately, it would create a lot of West Virginia jobs with solar installers that would service these types of contracts. So that's one that I think there's broad bipartisan support for. The electric utilities don't like it because they feel threatened by selling less electricity, but I still think it's the right thing to do for West Virginia for our nonprofits. The other bill related to jobs is related to energy efficiency. We passed a study resolution last session to look into the taxpayer dollars that are being spent on state buildings that are energy inefficient. And I expect that those results will show that there's a lot of room for improvement. So I do have a bill related to energy efficiency improvements at state buildings. So that's going to save taxpayer dollars because those investments pay off in a really short amount of time. And again, it'll create local West Virginia jobs. And we're talking about the kind of jobs like heating and cooling people, or construction jobs, people who could change out windows or blow in insulation, things like that. So those are local jobs. And then I guess the final thing is a bill that we actually passed the House last session that I was the lead sponsor of. It didn't make it through the Senate. Last session, it was called the Just Transition Bill. It has a new name this session, but it's related to coming up with a plan, a locally written plan to try to focus the federal funds and programs into the counties that have been hardest hit by the decline in coal jobs, and to be able to not just have people in DC tell us what we need, but have people in West Virginia communicate with them and tell them what we want and what's going to work best to diversify our economies. And that's taken on a new urgency now with the Biden administration, who's focusing on this issue. In fact, last week, he created the Interagency Working Group on Coal and Power Plant Communities and Economic Revitalization. It's focused on exactly this issue. How does the federal government get resources into the communities that are the hardest hit? So we need to pass that bill so that we could align our state policy with the federal policy that's emerging and get as many resources into these communities as possible. Thanks.
Thanks, Evan. Any other comments?
This is Barbara. I think we probably ought to talk at least some about healthcare, but there's a bill that many of us have sponsored for years called the LEAP bill, and it is a local, that means local energy efficiency project. And what it does is it would allow county commissions to work with small businesses to do energy efficiency projects and use the lending or the borrowing power of the county to help start up those small energy efficiency projects. That's kind of the low-hanging fruit, getting energy efficiency. We've done it in our schools. We need to do it in all of our buildings, but it's really hard for small businesses to get, to make those investments. It'll be especially hard now during the pandemic when all small businesses are stretched so thin. So I think that's a really sensible thing. It's been adopted all over the country at the city level, at the state level, at county levels. And I wish we would give that bill another look, because I think it would be a jobs bill at the community level. We would have small repair people who will, be doing various things, installing better windows, installing insulation, and doing the kind of things that, save money on your heating bills and save money on your lighting bills, so that anyway, I think that's a great idea, and that's a different approach, a smaller approach, but it could really help a lot of small businesses.
Very good. We are running low on time, and Charlie, I know you may have a couple questions.
Yeah, I just looking through the comments from viewers, something that's come up multiple times relates to healthcare, and just simply, what do you see as the future of PEIA, including funding levels or any other healthcare related topics? And I know Delegate Fletcher, you wanted to speak to that. So
yes, I do. Thank you. I think that healthcare is an enormous issue in West Virginia, both on the receiving side, those of us who need the healthcare, and also on the providing side with our whole system of hospitals. And one of the things that Dave mentioned, I think, in his introduction was local public health. Well, it seems to me that one of our first orders of business really should be stabilizing funding and improving funding for local public health. It was cut by 25% a year 5 years ago, and we allowed local public health to do Medicaid billing, but I think they do so much for us. You know, we all want to be sure that we aren't going to get food poisoning when we go to a restaurant or when we buy takeout right now. But we also count on them to, you know, do the contact tracing and do the shots for the vaccination shots of all different types. So to me, that's maybe the #1 priority in healthcare. PEIA is always an enormous issue. I don't think this session will be making any big changes to PEIA because we have so much else on our plate. But I think there are a lot of healthcare issues out there. I've been on the healthcare committee for longer than any other member in the House. And I just think it's a huge part of state government, health and human resources. If you count, you know, the Medicaid and you count mental health, it's a very, very big part of state government. And there are a lot of issues, opioid addiction. I mean, our numbers, our overdoses have gone up during the pandemic. This is not a time when you need to be isolated. If you have issues, mental health issues, if you have addiction issues, and frequently those are blended. So I think we will be spending a lot of attention, spending a lot of time on health issues. We only have a 60-day session, so it's going to be limited by that. But I think it's a very big issue.
Any other comments from our listeners? Charlie?
Yeah, I don't have any more questions. I think we're getting kind of close. I guess Eldon, if you want to chime in, I think we had sort of one open question for everyone, just to sort of address what.
Let me bring up a couple questions here.
Okay.
A question from David Bruffy about the standardization of distribution and allocation of COVID-19 vaccination. I don't know if any of the legislatures have any control over that, but the question that's worth bringing up, David Bruffy brought it up. He mentions that Huntington, Charleston, and Martinsburg all have their public transit operators have completed their shots, while our transit operators in North Central West Virginia, Montague, Marion, Harrison, and Preston have not received their vaccinations. Are any of our legislators aware of this situation?
I'm not, but I saw the question come up earlier. I would suggest if Dave would reach out to those 3 areas and determine how that was implemented and how that, you know, quickly came to be. And hopefully we could replicate that in Mon, Marion, Harrison County, wherever it may be. But yeah, having some background information, we gratefully appreciate it.
And I just want to say it brings up the issue. I'm not sure who, I think Mike talked about executive powers. It's been very frustrating for us to be on the sidelines all of this time as the governor exercises the powers of both the legislative branch and the executive branch. And I doubt that we will be getting into micromanaging how vaccinations are going to be distributed. But in the future, I worked this summer on a policy group. We don't want to have emergency authority given to the governor for more than a limited period of time. In addition to the power of the purse, we also set policy. And this is an example of a policy. So I think that's one of the things we need to do institutionally is make sure that we get back to all three branches of government like others have said. But I doubt that we would I don't know that we have time to get into the management of the vaccines. There have been a lot of changes going on, and that's one area where our state has done relatively well. So my guess is the legislature won't get into that this session.
Yes, I just thought our public wanted you to chime in on it and the issues that brings up as far as who has which power. Another issue that I'm sure you all saw is the topic of the income tax and the personal income tax. I know the Senate President Craig Blair has issued that as one of his priorities. Does anyone want to talk about that topic of the state income tax?
Well, I will weigh on it. If there was ever a subject that needed a study, this is it. I mean, there's a lot of questions and answers, a lot of data that needs to be brought forward. For some reason, we got away from true studies 6 or 7 years ago. And this is one of those opportunities. I think we should just put this into a study resolution, or it's going to eat up a lot of our legislative time, especially in finance and wherever this bill may go to. But yeah, I would like to see it in a study resolution. As it stands, I do not support the issue, but perhaps something would come out of a study resolution that would swing me the other direction.
I agree. Too many questions. How's the void in the budget going to be filled? I mean, who's going to pick up that tab? Is it going to be, common folks in our districts? I mean, I've seen some proposals of raising the sales tax to 8% or better, putting 2.5% back on food. I've seen some other sales tax on services such as, haircuts, lawyers, doctors, things like that. That all reflects back on our constituency base here. And I'm deeply, deeply concerned about that. I think taxes in the state should be more equal, not just dumped on to consumers. I've got a lot of questions, as Senator Beach said. As of right now, I cannot support that proposal without seeing something that works for everyone.
Any thoughts from any of our delegates?
I agree. I saw Tom Witt posted about how there's almost sort of a mirage effect in our state budget right now because we have an influx of cash from the federal stimulus, and that might be playing into the decision that we can eliminate the income tax. But in reality, those are temporary dollars. And my first legislative session in 2017, we had a 30-day special session because we had a $500 million shortfall. And the year prior to that, my colleagues, Mike, Barbara, and Senator Beach and Delegate Patel, they were there to fill a $300 million shortfall. So we're not consistently making ends meet with the resources that we do have. Meanwhile, now we want to blow a 43% hole in our budget. I think it's concerning.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else want to comment on that? And if not, along that same line is something that comes up consistently is what to do with the inventory tax. I think everyone agrees that it's not a good tax, but there's the problem of what you do with it. Does anyone want to chime in on that?
I don't want to speak back to back, but I will jump in real quick that if the inventory tax was a proposal that would benefit the majority of the individuals on this call, I would be more apt to support it. But the way that it has been written since I've been in the legislature, the repeal has been targeted at big companies and their inventory. You're not small mom and pops aren't going to see a tax break out of this. And so for that reason, I find it to be unpalatable when we are extending these tax breaks to big business, but not our small businesses.
Anyone else want to speak to that issue?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Dave, Patel, I'd just like to say that I have a lot of concern about the phasing out the inventory tax, especially I've worked with Jonathan Adler in previous years on that, and I know that would be very detrimental to Wetzel County with a lot of oil and gas industry work. So I agree with what my colleagues in the House and the Senate there are saying. Thank you.
Okay, the 2020 census should be out to the states sometime in first part of April. Probably the biggest issue for our state is going to be the reality that there's going to be a major loss in population to reduce to two Congress people. In that event, as we all know, the rumors spread that where are we going to divide the line? Are we going to divide the line between East and West? The rumor here here locally, and maybe I'm the fault, I'm probably the one that spread the rumor, it's going to be divided right through the middle of Charleston, right through the middle of Charleston, so that we got two Congress people from Charleston. The question is, in the topic of redistricting, are there any thoughts of any changes to how redistricting in the state is being done? I know there's been studies done nationwide as how redistricting should be done. Is there any thoughts by any of the legislatures on this issue?
Well, I think that one thing that needs to be noted, and Eldon, I don't know about the rumor you heard. I think congressional lines can't split a county. I don't believe they can, but I may be wrong about that. But I've never heard that rumor, quite frankly. So it's never made its way to Reevesville. Let me put it to you that way. But when the Republicans took over the majority 6 years ago, they immediately passed a bill that the House of Delegates will consist of 100 single delegate districts. So, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, particularly to all my friends on this call in Monongalia County, where you've had in the 51st district, five delegates representing you. Now, how's that going to play out? Who's going to get carved out? Will friends be running against friends? It's going to be interesting. I still believe multi-delegate district serves us well in some parts of the state. But obviously, I lost that battle. Some of us lost that battle. So, my bigger concern is local representation. The population is what it is. We're certainly concerned that we lost that much population, and it looks like when you lose a congressperson, and we all hate that, absolutely hate that. We got to figure out ways to bring people to West Virginia and not watch them leave. But I think the bigger concern is local representation and how that's carved out. This will be my third redistricting. Barbara probably two, and Dave Patel will probably as well. Bob seeing his third one. So, we know how it's played, and those in control can have a lot of influence. There's always been ideas out there to do independent redistricting, where someone comes in and it just is not political. It's supposedly to do what's right for fair and equal representation. I don't think we'll see that, quite frankly, but it's going to be very, very interesting because, you know, as we know, the majority party is Republican now, with not only just majorities but super majorities. So we'll see. We'll have to see how that plays out, and just hope for the best, and hope that we still get good equal representation.
Yeah, I want to thank all the panelists, all the legislators for coming today. Is there any issue that we have not covered, any burning issue anyone wants to bring up?
Could I just jump in for a moment? I just received a text message that yes, our good friend Bob Music is struggling with COVID. And if any of you are going to happen to see him in the next few days, please let him know that the Beach family is thinking of him.
Yes, thank you. I have not heard that, and we'll certainly keep him in our prayers. Thank you for that. Anyone else has anything? If not, I want to thank all our legislators very much. It is quite a privilege to have you join us and share your ideas and answer our questions. We at the partnership here work very hard to get our membership issues out, and we thank you for putting yourselves out there and to address the public and the business community. I would like to also thank our moderators, Dan, Libby, and Charlie, for their work and commitment to the partnership. Finally, I'd like to recognize our president and CEO, Russell Rogerson, to say a few words, and who will recognize our board chair. Russ.
All right, thanks, Eldon, and thanks to all the state representatives and senators for attending today. Obviously, the partnership is you know, we're about moving business forward and the economy. So I look forward to working with you in this session as well as you know, throughout the year. So please let's stay in touch. Let's make sure that we're you know, working together for the benefit of our community, and of which you all do a great job. So we appreciate that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our board chair, Mark Imbrogno, to wrap up today's session. Mark.
Hey, thanks, Russ. Good afternoon, everyone. First, thank you to all of our local legislators that participated today. This is always a good event. And, you know, despite moving it to a virtual forum, this has been, as always, enlightening and interesting. And, you know, really, I can at least somewhat sympathize with the hard work that goes into being down there during session in the 60 days. From my experiences previously, about a decade ago, serving a couple sessions as counsel to Senate Finance Committee under Roman Prezioso, and then being in Tomlin's general counsel's office. So I know it is a non-stop whirlwind, and you all get to make all the decisions as part of that process and the meetings and the discussions. So certainly we appreciate that hard work and look forward to seeing what is going to shape up to be a very, very interesting session. And I know that issues, what we may think may be the big issues, there always ends up being other stuff that pops out as the session progresses. So we do look forward to that. And I definitely want to thank Libby, Dan, Charlie, Eldon, Russ, and Amy for all your work today in getting this put together. And certainly all the folks that were attending today, and for all the questions that were put out to the group. And, you know, it really shows some of the variety of interests that folks have up here. And with that, I guess we can close this out for the day and look forward to seeing what comes out over the next couple of months. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Russ and Mark. I want to also remind everybody that this meeting will be on Facebook and on our website for the public to watch and learn about our legislators and their work at the legislature. This concludes our 2021 Legislative Roundtable. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely.